Stories from our hemisphere. It's Our Americas with Cary Harrison.
Throughout history, the role of women has been silenced to diminish their true power and status. Throughout history's greatest stories, whether it's the goddess Athena who kicked Poseidon's rear end, or the notion of Mother Earth as a clearly female entity, this ignorance not only affects women, but has distorted our knowledge of our human past. As we look at our Americas, the histories of all of them are filled with intelligent and brave women. The U.S. Supreme Court is modeled after a group of female Iroquois Indian elders. And the women of the wars of independence in Latin America were also instrumental, but always became linked to prominent men, whether hero or villain. To understand women through the eyes of traditionally male storytellers has been a difficult task. Needless to say, most of us still live in a largely patriarchal society based on masculine conceptions and actions. The ideology of this global groupthink dictates that the actions of women are worthy as a footnote at best. And with the latest blockbuster Wonder Woman movie in theaters, let's give a nod to the real Wonder Women of revolutionary times. During the time of American independence here in North America, South America's Josefa Joaquina Sanchez created the flag for the Venezuelan revolutionary movement against the Spanish occupiers. She also married a Venezuelan military leader and became instrumental in the Conspiración de Juárez y España that was intended to free Venezuela from Spain's crushing yoke. Then there was Ana Maria Campos, a resistance fighter in the Venezuelan War of Independence. She was given the honor of heroine and is remembered today as a warrior and a martyr. After watching her older brother die in a Spanish prison, she was inspired to try to free South America. Spain vehemently abhorred and punished patriotism from women and had them summarily executed or publicly humiliated. Men could at least expect some sort of trial, but women were not meant to be influencing policy and were even more dangerous since there were so many of them quietly plotting in their kitchens. Spain made an example of Domitila Flores by publicly whipping her after she refused to retract her famous phrase, "Si no capitula monda," or "if he does not surrender, he dies." Later, 14-year-old Luisa Arizmendi of Caracas was arrested and held in captivity to be exchanged for her rebel husband. Even after extreme torture, and let's face it, the Spanish had perfected the art of torture going all the way back to Torquemada, even then, she never revealed the whereabouts of her husband, and thankfully later regained her full freedom. And then there were the daughters of slaves who rose to awesome notoriety in the same history. In 1813, Juana Ramirez commanded an all-female 100-strong artillery battalion. It was known as the Battalion of Women and was instrumental in resisting Spain's attempts to reconquer the now newly independent Venezuela and turn it back into a colony again. And here's one of the more fascinating elements of all of this. Like one of the most famous cutthroat pirates in maritime history, Anne Bonny, who posed as a man, Venezuela's Josefa Camejo had to disguise herself as a man in order simply to be accepted into the army. She was later considered to be one of the bravest rebellion commanders, and no one even knew Camejo was a woman. Her acts of heroism are still recognized in the national pantheon of Venezuela as one of the great heroines of the Venezuelan War of Independence. Other women who supported the cause of freedom were imprisoned, they were tortured, they were mutilated, dragged by horses, sentenced to death for propaganda, or simply executed for not playing along with the Spanish plan. And since we started with a nod to the women of the North American Iroquois, we need to acknowledge the unremembered indigenous warrior women of South America who not only participated in the indigenous resistance against the invaders, but even fought for 67 straight years as one indigenous woman did. So let's end by celebrating the over 8,000 women who bravely fought alongside their men for freedom and independence from the crushing Spanish crown. Their story is our story, since without their help, our Americas would not today be free and independent. For Our Americas, I'm Cary Harrison.
Our Americas with Cary Harrison.